Thank you, and what a great day so far. Ray Kurzweil is a noted futurist and inventor. He has looked at technology in dozens of different ways. And what he's found, regardless as he's measured broadband penetration, computer processing speed, data storage costs, and it goes on. And basically, every way he's measured it, he's found that technology is doubling every year. What we have is exponential growth in technology. This is the traditional exponential growth curve. For example, if you take a penny and you double it every day for a month, you have $5.5 million. And it's a long one, 31 days, you have $11 million. That's the power of exponential growth. I believe we are right about here in the adoption curve in terms of exponential growth. The next few years, we are going to see amazing changes in technology. In fact, if you look at it, if the rate of change continues, and by all manners, the rate of change is accelerating rather than slowing down, but by the end of this decade, we'd have 7 doublings, or technology would be 128 times more powerful than it is today. We're going to be in for a really fun ride. And with that as an intro, I would like to talk about 3 advanced technology trends that are going to make a difference with that. And so we'll go into one of the ones is that open source will drive down the cost of event software. One of the things I'm going to be citing a few statistics with it. I have a few web links I'm going to be going to. At the end of the program, I'll give you a link to the site so you don't have to write all this stuff down as we go through with this. Most of you know about open source technology. It's a community-developed software that is usually free. Linux is in over 90% of all servers around. It's free software that's used with that. Android operating system, OpenOffice.org, and there are thousands of other free or very low-cost software programs available thanks to open source. But what I found that's been interesting, where things are going, is in the content management areas, such as Joomla is one. Joomla has 9,700 extensions or plugins. WordPress has more than 26,000 plugins. Plugins are like building blocks. They can do just almost anything that you want on a website design. And you're starting to see these products being used in very large, complex websites. The eBay is an example, the New York Times, one in our industry, the Vancouver Convention Center. These are all examples of sites that are using WordPress in this case, or Joomla for that. But what I'm interested in is, how that is going to change in terms of software design for events, because that's an area that is typically narrowly focused, and the software is in some cases quite expensive with that. It also future-proofs your website design. And for example, as mentioned earlier today about responsive web design, I'll play a very short video that describes this.
Responsive web design allows designers to create websites with fluid layouts and flexible images. They automatically adapt according to the size and orientation of the user's browser to deliver the optimal layout. This means your site looks great, is consistent and is usable, regardless of how people are accessing it. So you can be confident that your website will deliver a fantastic user experience on any device.
We are entering into a post-PC world. There are more mobile operating systems that are being sold than Windows-based operating systems. I think in the next few years, it's not going to go away immediately. But in the next few years, your PC is going to seem as quaint as a fax machine or a floppy disk. Things are going mobile, and your website is going to need to go mobile as well. And the way to do that is through responsive web design or adaptive web design with that. And so and here's an example of how these open source tools can future-proof it. You have plugins that will deal with responsive web design. So instead of going back to your web designers and having hand code and changing all this, the process becomes much simpler when you use open source technology, and that's where I see things going, so a much less expensive way. But there are also event-related plugins that are happening with this. And I'd like to say at the start here, I'm an independent third-party analyst. I've never made a cent of sale on any meetings technology product. So when I talk about ones, I'll talk about a number of different products here. It's not an endorsement, it's just that they have a good online example. One, for example, is Event Espresso. I'll play the video.
Let's say you ask one of these robots, what is Event Espresso? They'd say something like,
Event Espresso is an event management plugin for WordPress.
the robots are not technically wrong, but Event Espresso is so much more. We make it easy for you to register attendees for classes, concerts, sporting events, and everything in between, all through your WordPress website. And that's just the beginning. Event Espresso can handle your event every step of the way by helping you collect payments, assign seats, print tickets, manage your attendees and staff, even use your mobile device to scan tickets at the door. But when you need some extra power, Event Espresso puts you in control and comes packed with an entire suite of specialized add-ons. We give you the power to build the event management system that's right for you and your attendees. And if you ever need a hand, our friendly support staff is here to help you achieve true event management mastery. With affordable pricing packages designed to fit your business, not only is Event Espresso more than a WordPress plugin, it's more control, more freedom, and more profit. Event Espresso. Find out more at eventsespresso.com.
And you see on the prices on this, for one event, it's $89.95. And so, and then there are numerous WordPress plugins that do event management. This is one sample of it. The same example exists for Joomla. Ohana is one. Their pricing is even lower than that, and it's in euros, but for unlimited use for a year, it's at 249 euros. And so that's about $350 with that. So it's that's where things are going. I'm not saying that these are going to take over meeting planning software developers. There are many good ones. There's some in this room here that are very good event management registration systems. What I am saying, though, is that open source content management can be used. It'll drive down the future price of event management software, and it's going to be an option for many to have a much lower cost than what they're doing right now. So that's one of the trends, is open source is really making that change. The second trend is that Wi-Fi is everywhere. This is an area, Wi-Fi has become the lifeblood of event communications with it. It's crucial, as we're doing today. Most of you are carrying around at least one, many of you multiple devices here, and are relying on the tools, the social media tools and your apps and so forth to do that. It's a very important part of events right now. And yet there have been many I do about 40 or 50 presentations a year, and I have experienced many epic event fails in these last couple of years of doing that. Here's what the challenge is. There will be more than 10 billion mobile internet devices by 2006. Globally, in a estimated population of 7.3 billion. So that's more than one for every person on the planet with this. Worldwide mobile traffic will increase to 13-fold over the next 4 years. It's 134 exabytes. An exabyte, a trillion is a really huge number. An exabyte is a trillion. So that's 134 trillion bytes of data that have been going through with that. And you can see that the mobile use is exploding here. It's growing. This is one of those exponential growth curves that are happening with this. And then this is the key part here, is that tablets I will take PC sales by the end of this year. 9 out of 10 tablets are Wi-Fi only, and iPads on average use 400% more bandwidth Wi-Fi than mobile phones do. And so we're seeing this huge explosion in this area of tablet computers, and consequently this huge explosion in Wi-Fi needs. And hopefully their facilities are growing to meet this demand. Expects an annual growth of 86% in Wi-Fi hotspots in these next few years. Another essentially exponential growth. What is the challenge with this? Well, what we're seeing here, for example, the Olympics. They had over 1 million Wi-Fi accesses during that time. Video is driving it. Video is a huge driver of bandwidth. 19% increase with this. I was through Estonia 4 years ago, even back then, but even more so right now, it's like one giant Wi-Fi hotspot. Everywhere you go, you have free Wi-Fi. And then you start having, where do you see the models out there to make this happen here? For example, the good news is the technology exists to provide high-density Wi-Fi. One example is AT&T Park. 30% of the 41,000 users are accessing Wi-Fi at a given time with this. Another example is Gillette Stadium here in the Boston area. I'll play a video on this one. The technology exists to provide this, and slowly the meeting facilities are getting this concept. And for example, Convene here, this is a perfect example where everybody's accessing the mobile social media and the different tools here. Everybody has a laptop almost with that. And I've been measuring today pretty consistent 5 megabytes up and down of access speed, and that's great. That's as good as you need for almost any circumstances with that. But what you're seeing is a trend here in hotels and convention venues that throttled free Wi-Fi access is becoming the norm, but charges for premium services. This is a list of the major hotel corporations out here that provide free Wi-Fi. Some of them in bold you have to sign up for a loyalty program or be a gold one, but most hotels are providing this or starting to provide that now. Marriott just came around. They're a holdout. They've just come around and started to do this with that. Smart City Network, major convention centers around the United States, some of the largest ones. They have free and public spaces. It's a paltry 256 kilobyte down and a 128 kilobyte up with that, but at least it's a step in that right direction. And you have many other convention facilities around the world that are doing. They're moving in this direction. Here's what I think is a proposed minimum standard for any meeting venues, to provide throttled Wi-Fi internet throughout the facility for free. And what I recommend is 512 kilobytes per second. So this facility is doing 10 times that amount approximately with that. But 512 kilobytes per second allows you to answer email, to tweet, to do social media. It may take a while if you want to stream video, and you won't be able to stream HD video with it, but it gives you that basic one, that basic underpinning of being able to socially interact and to do those things in a way, at least you can do the basic services with that. Then charge for higher speeds, for dedicated bandwidth. If you're a meeting planner and you need to have rock solid, you pay a reasonable amount for that. And then premium attendee access as well. If they need to stream HD video, at least for the near future, the hotels are having to protect themselves in some way, and I think this is that happy compromise between the two, is that you provide throttled Wi-Fi for free, and if you need more, then you pay for more. This is a complex issue. That's what the problem is that meeting planners and hotel suppliers, the suppliers need to educate themselves on this issue because it's a complex one. And for example, if an event planner comes in and say, I want free Wi-Fi, the response should be, okay, well, let's see for how many people, what type of devices, how many, whether they're going to be downloading, where they're going to be downloading at. And there's a whole range of questions that they need to ask with this before you can do that, and that requires education. At my website, I have a number of articles about the key questions asked with that. But this is an issue that we're going to be facing more and more as Wi-Fi becomes a really crucial component to a successful event. And the final one, the final trend is one that we've been talking about a lot today, is that mobile technology is transforming events and society in general. This is Marty Cooper. And 40 years ago, this year, he made the world's first cellular phone call. And it was here in New York. Who do you think he called? Most people guess his mom. He actually called his competitor and said, hey, guess what I have in my hand? This is called the Motorola Brick. It costs $9,000 in today's dollars. It costs $9 a minute to use. You could only last for 20 minutes, but that was okay. It weighed over 2.5 pounds, and you couldn't hold it up to your ear for longer than 20 minutes with that. But that's the start of where things are going. I've been interested in meeting mobile technology for some time. In fact, I'm going to show this next slide is an actual slide that I gave 13 years ago. and made a prediction in the Convention Industry Council. It's a little hard to see down at the bottom. It's the year 2000. I made a prediction that mobile devices would become widgets, wireless internet devices for geopositioning, e-commerce, and telecommunications. And I still think widget is a much more descriptive device than our cellular phone with that. And at that time, I predict it's going to become your telephone, your geopositioning, your micropayment system, video, still camera. Back in that time, the iPod had not been invented, so it said to be your Walkman, your web browsers, pager, and all the rest here that have done, all of them have really come to pass, except for the multimedia projector. But for about $250, you can buy a sleeve that fits into your iPhone that converts it into a multimedia projector. So it's been a fairly accurate assessment on that. The real game change was in 2007, though. But by the end of this year, we'll have more mobile devices than any people on Earth here with this. And so, and of those 7 billion mobile devices with this, 1 billion of them are smartphones. And I just lost my preview monitor here, but with that. But what's happening, this is a huge growing area here. It's now, in 2 more years, it's going to be 2 billion. And this is, people are carrying around these very powerful pocket computers in their hands. And this is such a game changer to how things will be happening for events. This is a rock concert in 1993. This is the rock concert today. This is the papal inauguration in 2005. From the same spot, this is the papal inauguration today. What a societal change that's happened with this. And since 2007 when the iPhone came out, and then the iPhone clones, and I don't say those pejoratively. In fact, if Apple doesn't get off its butt and start innovating again, I'm going to be moving over to a Galaxy if in this next round here, because they need to continue to innovate with that. But then in 2010, the iPad came out. And now there are more than 100 tablet manufacturers out there. I'll go into that just a little bit more. This is an area that's exploding with that. And then you have the apps. With the 800,000 apps, most of them are free for Apple, 700,000 for iPad. There's an app for everything. 2 years ago, I made a prediction that if you don't have an iPad for your event, I predicted that we are crossing a chasm halfway into the early majority, and that in 2 years' time, if you don't have an app for your event, people are going to ask, why are you behind the times? And I believe that is the case, that we are about right here. We're going past that early majority phase. We're into the late majority. I have people come up to me all the time at events that I know have been technophobes and said, hey, Corbin, I just got my new smart iPhone, and I'm loving it and doing it, and they're figuring it out. Finally, technology has gotten easy enough that a 3-year-old or a grandmother can use it. And that's such a game changer with that. A few of the things I'd like to highlight as we look toward the future. One is NFC, near field communication. This is a range of things. There are 4 major things that NFC does. It's really been driven by payments, micropayments, and credit card payments in a faster, much more reliable way. You can share files between phones, such as contact information or rich documents. There's ticketing. There's service discovery. If you want more information about that product, tap the sign. Or you want the course notes outside the event, you tap your phone, you instantly have it. I'll play the video on this to kind of describe this. It can be used for transportation, shopping, ticketing, loyalty points. Keys, they're starting to see this in hotel rooms now, using that for vending machines. Look how fast this payment is. Way faster than a credit card. This, you can go up and you can buy movie tickets. You tap the movie poster, you find out the times, you buy the tickets, and then you use your phone as the ticket going into that. Same thing with vending machines. This has been widely used in Europe and in Asia, parts of Asia. It's coming here. And then transit and ticket. There's one scene coming up where a woman's talking on her mobile phone. She stops only long enough as she's going through the subway turnstile to tap it. Then she continues her conversation. It's right here. Then she continues her conversation. And so there are huge opportunities here for that, for events. I mean, all those 4 areas can be directly applied for events with that. Here's another example with a hotel. This app is actually an app in Sweden right now. You check in, you're at the airport, you pick up your luggage, you check into your hotel, you find out what room it is, and your hotel, your phone becomes the key. You walk right past the front desk. And you check out on the way out. There's also applying for events. This event happened in Salt Lake City. You check in, your badge has an NFC tag into it, and you can use that for also interacting with the exhibitors. They can use their phone to get their lead retrieval information, that contact information. But also, she can take that, go out, and she can use her badge to access the city tram system. They've done this in Amsterdam where they can access museums and restaurant discounts and a whole range of things, getting that total economic impact of it. This is a Goodwill Festival of Speed. It combines all of those things. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to go past this just to, as I started with a little less than 30 minutes when I started, I think, but I'll try to wrap it up here. One of the things I need to talk about here is how technology is going to change. It seems to do in 10-year segments. The 60s is mainframe computing, the 70s is mini computing, personal computing in the 80s, desktop computing in the 90s, mobile internet computing in the 200s, and this decade, I think, is going to be the one of wearable, everywhere computing. And as mentioned this morning, Google Glass is an example. You're starting to have this in your phone, in your cars to access different things as you're on the road. There's watches are coming out. There's going to be a whole range of wearable technology that's going to directly affect events as we go through. And then just one quick last session on tablets. It's the fastest adoption technology hardware ever. In any technology with this. You can see the growth here. This is desktop, here's notebook sales, here's the growth of tablet sales here. It's exploding with that and it's surpassing. And you may think that there are some things that unaware of about what iPads and tablets can do, some that you may have not noticed. I'm going to show a quick video on this one. It's in German, so. I love the look on her face. This next very short one is of a 1-year-old interacting with an iPad and a magazine. To this little girl, that magazine is not a magazine. That magazine is an iPad that doesn't work. And one thing I'm really excited about for events is the ability to eliminate paper. My past life was as a meeting planner. In the desk behind me, I had books, these event Bibles. Some of them weighed 10 pounds of all that information. If we're going to come into this decade, we need to embrace technology and get rid of paper. It's such an inefficient form of data processing and sharing with this. This is an example of an iPad app that's going to try to do some of that. Here's another one that is event logistics details with this. But just kind of on a simple basis, the paperless conference combiner can be done in 3 steps. You convert everything to PDF, which is the language of tablets. And it locks the storage. You have cloud storage, and you have a PDF reader with that. The cloud storage, there's many of them. I use Dropbox, but there are many good ones with that. That helps you sync up automatically from your desktop, and you can share it. And then the ability to annotate. Most of the time, you don't need to edit your documents. For example, a contract. You don't need to edit a contract on site. You may not want to make changes to the event orders and that type of things. And so you have annotation tools. A free one is Paperport Notes. I use Goodreader's whole $4.99 to do that, and you can simply use those tools to start taking those thousands of documents or the pounds and pounds of paper that you're doing around, converting it to PDF, and then have access to that and be able to share that on site in a much deeper, simpler way. I grew up in a time when the Dick Tracy wristwatch was the state-of-the-art of technology with that. Of course, it was science fiction back then. I've been to Seoul, Korea 3 times in the last 2 years, and I actually saw this watch in operation. The Dick Tracy video wristwatch is a reality right now. But of course, when the iPhone 4S came out, that became available on a mobile platform everywhere. We're going to see some amazing things happening here. 3D displays are coming. This is hot at this Consumer Electronics shows. And in one final video, this is in Korean, but it is a technology that exists today. It's in a lot of times in the development stage, but we're going to see these technologies happening just in the next couple of years, and some of them exist today. Foldable displays, flexible displays, transparent displays, augmented reality, real-time voice translation capabilities, and transparent displays again. So this is the future. This is where things are going with that. Really exciting, interesting times happening with that. I have a couple of closing slides, but a couple of things here. First of all, this is a good time to get your cameras out, and rather than having to write this down here. There are the resources. I have thousands of categorized bookmarks with this. I have hundreds of free articles on my website. My TechsyTalk newsletter goes out every other month. It goes now to about 10,000 people in more than 70 countries. The course notes for this event, corbinball.com/assets/trends-pt for plannertech.pdf. This is my mobile website. I don't have a responsive website yet, but you can, if you have a QR code, you can take that there with that, and my responsive website should be coming this next year. You can also contact me on all the social media channels with that, and so please friend me, follow me, link to me, follow me on the Pinterest board, and all those things. The course note is again here as well. And so, just in closing, what we're talking about is a lot of change. That's one of the things. Change management is going to be the key part about how we deal with this, because we're going to see some amazing changes, very cool changes, and some of them disruptive changes, but change nonetheless. This is my favorite quote on change. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that's most adaptable to change. And I'd like to add on, in the final slide here, with humility. This is a picture of me in high school standing behind the state-of-the-art of projection technology, a 16-millimeter projector. And to add on, with humility, to Charles Darwin's quote, digital Darwinism is alive and well. Either adapt to technology change or lose business to those that do. Thank you very much.